I'm Katitan Bash. Hi everybody. My name is Tavon Cooke and I'm the Deputy Public Affairs Officer here at the U.S. Consulate General in Erbil. Thank you for tuning in to today's Facebook live chat on our Education USA series, specifically to talk about the financial aid process, which revolves around money and how to pay for your studies in the United States. If this is your first time tuning in, I'll give you an overview of what Education USA is, the educational services we offer at the Consulate, a brief overview of our previous videos, and then a summary of today's presentation. So Education USA is a network of educational advising centers run by the Department of State all over the world. We give free, comprehensive, credible advice for international students on how to study in the United States, ranging from the application process to scholarships to how to adjust culturally before traveling to the United States. So the U.S. Consulate General in Erbil, we have a dedicated educational advisor who offers Education USA services. We give advice to high school students, to university students, public and private. We offer educational advising to those who have done research here at the Consulate, as well as out in Duhok and other areas of the Iraqi Kurdistan region. For students, we offer all levels of advice from undergraduate to summer courses to master's programs and PhD programs. And of course, you are tuning in today to the live chat on Education USA's financial aid. If you've missed our first two videos, the first video talks about how to research and explore options for study in the United States, and the second video is how to prepare a strong application in the application process. If you've missed those first two videos, you may find them in the videos tab of the Consulate General's Facebook page. So today we'll talk about the financial aid process. I'll give you an overview of merit-based aid, academic, which is academic related. I'll give you an overview of need-based aid and employment-based aid. And we'll talk briefly about the Fulbright Scholarship, which is one option that students can take if they're interested in studying in the United States. And I'll give you a brief list of some databases that you can go about looking through to find scholarships in the United States. So let's talk about financial aid, how to pay for your studies. And it's one of the most commonly asked questions by international students. To boil it down, it requires a lot of research in advance in order to make yourself a very strong candidate to receive financial aid to study in the United States. We have two primary types of financial aid. We separate it into need-based aid and merit-based aid. Need-based aid is for students who come from families with not so many financial resources, and they may have difficulties paying for studies in the United States. And when looking at universities that offer need-based aid, they offer it in multiple forms. Some of it in the form of loans, and those loans may be based primarily for U.S. citizens, and some universities may offer loans for international students. For loans, you may have to look directly with the university's website and university's admissions team just to make sure that those are options for international students. Some universities have need-based aid based off of total household income, and some may offer complete coverage for students whose household income is below a certain threshold. For instance, we have some universities such as Harvard and Princeton who, for the undergraduate, will offer full coverage if a student's family is below a certain amount of income for the household. So that's one option for need-based aid. Many students, though, would want to consider merit-based aid, which is based off of your academic performance, honors, or other special strengths that you're bringing to the university that you're applying to in the United States. The most common form of merit-based aid is very strong grades and very strong test scores. So as you're studying in your undergraduate and high school studies here, you may want to make sure to perform your best in order to get the best grades possible so that when you apply to universities in the United States, you are considered a very strong candidate. Other forms of merit-based aid include specialty scholarships. So if you're a student, for instance, who plays basketball or football, or you're able to swim very well, you may be a potential candidate for an athletic fellowship, and an athletic scholarship. And I've seen students, they film videos, post them to YouTube, search specifically for athletic scouts, and there may be some in the Middle Eastern region or somewhere else. Those scouts will see the videos, contact the athletes, and work with the athletes on securing a scholarship to study in the United States. In case you don't play sports but are musically gifted, you may play the violin or the guitar or the piano. There are similar scholarships offered for musicians, students with exceptionally strong musical talent. Again, you create a video portfolio of your performances, you upload those to specialty websites, and you work with scouts or university financial aid teams to secure a scholarship to study. There are special types of scholarships as well that are aimed for different categories of students. If you're considered a first-generation student, the first in your family to go to college, or you're from a religious minority or a sexual minority, or you're a female and they may have special scholarships for female, or you're a student with a disability, some universities offer financial aid and scholarships for students that fall into these categories. If you're a student who is interested in a particular area of study, such as journalism or engineering or nursing or teaching, universities have special scholarships dedicated for that. We do have a question from Srud. How can we find universities that offer scholarships, and how can I apply? Well, very good question. To find the universities, I would highly recommend you tune into the first video of this series, which you may find on our webpage, how to search for appropriate universities in the United States. Once you narrow down that university, the universities that you wish to attend, you will go on to the particular department's website. The departments have a section for financial aid. You'll read those instructions on the types of aid that the university offers, and you will begin working on there. All right? So we've talked about need-based aid, which can be loans or other forms of non-loan aid that universities will offer to students whose income is below a certain amount. We've talked about merit-based scholarship, which can include athletic scholarships, music scholarships, scholarships for strong grades, or scholarships for certain types of professions. We have a question. Is there any possibility to be supported financially by a university? Absolutely. That's the topic of this live chat. So keep watching and hopefully you'll get some good information from that. But thank you for the question. We have a different type of aid called employment-based aid. And for students interested in doing master's and PhD programs in the United States, this may be interesting for you. So many PhD students, for instance, are admitted to universities in the United States with funding packages. And those funding packages come with conditions of employment. For instance, if you're a person who has experience teaching, you may be put in charge of teaching a group of undergraduate students, bachelor's degree students, or you may teach discussion classes as part of your financial award package. If you're going into a field that requires a lot of research, you may work with the professor to research a particular area that he or she is interested in, and you'll get paid for that in addition to having your tuition waived. We do have a question. How can I get a free master's program in the United States for free and for no fee? Well, if you're asking that question, you're at the very, very beginning stages of your research. So what I would encourage you to do is figure out what you would like to study first, and then go about researching schools in the United States, looking at videos 1 and 2, putting together a strong application package, and then submitting for that. So research assistantships and teaching assistantships are primary means through which graduate students or postgraduate students are funded in the United States. For undergraduates, we have something called work study. which is part-time employment related to your studies, very part-time. Unfortunately, students in the United States on a student visa are not permitted to work full-time because the purpose of a student visa is to study. You'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment, the student visa process, but just know that you should be relying on different types of academic and need-based aid to support you through your studies if you're an undergraduate student. So Halber asks, what about scholarships for bachelor's degree at the United States? Need-based and merit-based are where to start, but Halber, you will need to identify which university you would like to study in and then work with that university to find out what types of financial aid and scholarships they offer. I'm going to move on to the Fulbright, which is a pretty well-known scholarship, fellowship throughout the entire country. So it's for students who would like to pursue a master's degree in the United States. And we have several basic criteria that you'll need to meet before you apply for the Fulbright program. One of which is to have a completed bachelor's degree, plus 2 years of work experience. We do require that you submit a statement of purpose and essays detailing why you would like to pursue the Fulbright in the United States. It should be in your own words without help from outside parties. Conditions of the Fulbright, if you're accepted for the award, include showing us that you plan to return to Iraq upon the completion of the fellowship, and fulfillment of a 2-year requirement to remain in country before applying for any type of visa with immigration benefit. The Fulbright, as I've seen, and I've met many Fulbrighters who've come back here and are doing great work, including in the fields of oil and engineering, architecture, green technology. It's definitely one way to get started in studying in the United States, even if it is very competitive. I would like to move on and answer one question that I did get before the live chat, which is there a central database of scholarships for study in the United States? There is not. The primary source of fellowships and scholarships will be at the university where you're planning to apply, but there are other resources as well. One is our Education USA website with the State Department, educationusa.state.gov, where we give and post different types of scholarships for various universities in the United States. We do have a question. Are there some master's degree scholarships for medical graduates? There are relatively few scholarships for those types of programs, medical programs, law programs in the United States. For those, you'll have to demonstrate exceptional talent and capability, but on average, those are fewer and far between for international students. One more question from Dildar. Do you have any MA Studies program which allow your family to accompany you? If you research the universities in the United States, there are no restrictions unless you're on a Fulbright program. So if you do apply for general graduate studies, you should look into it as an option that way. So some of the resources besides university websites and Education USA include the Consulate General's Education USA advisor, who sends out scholarships that come to the consulate's attention to various universities in the region, who in turn shares it with their students. So if you're a local student, your university gets scholarship notices from us as we receive them from universities in the United States. Also, we have general websites such as www.fastweb.com, IIE.org, which is the Institute for International Education, the Grad Cafe, edupass.com, and so on, that contain various scholarships as well as what you need to do in order to apply and be competitive for them. We have one question from Hemin. What is the criteria in the interview stage within the Fulbright program? Well, Hemin, I would advise you to check out our website, which gives you the criteria for the Fulbright program, which is what I just mentioned: completed bachelor's degree, 2 years of work experience. As far as the interview program, as far as the interview stage, if you are invited for the interview, just come natural, come prepared to talk about why you would like to study in the United States, and what it is that you hope to accomplish on your Fulbright grant if you get it. So to sum up, there are two types of financial aid: need-based aid and merit-based aid. For graduate students and some undergraduate students, you may be offered employment-based aid in the forms of research assistantships or teaching assistantships. There are special types of scholarships for promoting diversity, such as religion or females or professions. And then there's the Fulbright Fellowship, which we will be advertising, and I encourage you to follow our Facebook page to be updated on when we actually publish the information. We have one final question from Sarchia. Are scholarships only available for university students with a high GDP? Absolutely not. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there are need-based scholarships as well, need-based aid, which are for students that don't have a lot of financial resources. And for need-based aid, that's not based off of your GPA. So please remember to go to our Facebook page, go to the videos tab, watch the first video on how to research universities, watch the second video on how to prepare a strong application, this one which talks about the financial aid process, and then our final video will talk about the student visa process and things student needs to keep in mind before they travel to the United States. Thanks for tuning in.